Game Diablo 4 genre action RPG platforms PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Xbox Series, Microsoft Windows developer Blizzard Entertainment publisher Blizzard Entertainment link official website. Over past 2 weeks, Blizzard has conducted 2 beta tests Diablo 4, both prologue and limited to first act, but allowing it to form an idea of changes that occurred in later part series. Its launch is scheduled for June of this year. Before I share my impressions, I would like to point out that this would be a very subjective assessment, because at end of the game he personally gave me what second and third parts could not give. Your expectations may be completely different. Diablo 4 brings fear back to the series. Of course, we're not talking about a traditional horror game, we're still dealing with an action RPG, where the player's main task is to carry tons of loot and 724 enemy packs. One of the main reasons for my sincere love for the first Diablo lies in that fantastic atmosphere of Lovecraftian horror room, which eventually disappeared in later episodes. A small town, cut off from the rest of the world and virtually abandoned by its inhabitants, is gradually engulfed by an unspeakable old nightmare, with dark underground tombs, echoes groans, clattering bones and creaking stone plates being heard. Rumored creatures hell rise out of darkness, shattered bodies and blood that covers floor and abandoned cathedral offer hope for only a brief respite, before evil returns, far from happy even end here. All of this, the cheerful devils say in a funny way, Rakenishu, it reminds you of the enemies in the Golden Age comics. So in my rating, neither Diablo 2 nor Diablo 3 would have passed the first chapter even if they were objectively better in terms of gameplay. So, given the fact that events now take place in a relatively open world, Diablo 4 is as close as possible to the same lost atmosphere. The shelter, which suffered from consequences of eternal conflict, was already on verge of decline, and after Lilith's return, situation deteriorated with disaster. While people who are still in remote settlements beg rebellious Archangel Anarius for his salvation in vain, outside walls of their holy temple, sects offer bloody sacrifices to Lilith, demons of hell rise to surface and rise from graves. In fact, chasing Lilith will be task of our hero, who is often distracted by side missions that end with exorcism rites in a dark basement, often located in the wrong place at wrong time. An abandoned prison for Mad S, full of bloodthirsty souls, or swimming alive during sexual games with a demon. Visually, game matches tone set by plot, at least in first act found in beta version. There are semi-ruined buildings, hastily built outposts, cities devoid of pity and grace, even in the temple of Anarius there is despair. Blizzard's signature art style, which works boldly with bright colors, has no place and realism is dominated by stylization. Ridiculous monsters are also a thing of the past. Compare the newly fallen shaman with those who came before to see what I'm talking about. However, if we're talking about Diablo, updated graphics and a dramatic story won't go far. So let's take a look at what changes are in the gameplay. It all starts with a simple character editor, which is unlikely to change in the final version of the game. Considering fact that hero will now often appear in intermediate scenes, I would like to have possibility of more subtle customization of look. But what is happening now is that it allows you to create a more or less unique character. And let's be honest. In Diablo, the appearance of armor is much more valuable than the shape of your character's nose or voice. And the armor here looks very epic. The designers did their best. The prologue isn't much different from first hour in any part of the series, but after going beyond its starting position and discovering a few new skills, we're already getting first full impressions as players are now split into 2 camps. Some love the more measured pace of combat, while others complain of speeding up the character's movement by not being able to roll constantly. Yes, dynamics and sometimes mechanics fight have become a little closer to those of first part. Ranged fighters have ability to destroy most enemies from a safe distance, but they are very vulnerable in close contact. If it is not possible to quickly escape siege, you must sacrifice 1 or more of the 6 available slots for defensive spells that increase survivability, while Barbarian must first run over enemies, then gain anger by slicing them for a while with normal attacks, and only then use stronger blows. As a result, we are faced with situations where Magician passes through the dungeons easily, while Barbarian has to spend more time literally cutting his way. The developers will obviously still be working on balance, but for me this situation has not become a problem. The Barbarian turned out very interesting because he can carry 4 types of weapons at same time, and as he learns new skills, it will not be less lie than other classes. As Necromancer nerf, I don't hesitate see it. Most visually appealing character. My sincere respect to those responsible design of sets Necromancer, but it very easy play like it. Old tried and tested plan about raising an immortal pile and blowing up bodies of enemies works reliably like a Swiss watch when is cleaned in seconds. It not difficult at all except bosses, who do not call slaves help. I would also like to mention the redesigned healing system, which is a mix of Diablo 3 and Immortal. The character now carries healing bottles that will increase in number and quality over time, and can overturn backups from monsters like healing spheres in Diablo 3. But the difference between them is that they don't start working right away, they regain supply. Already used bottles. I think it's a pretty elegant solution. Like Diablo 3, it's harder to heal forever now, and you don't need to micromanage dozens of bottles like in older games the series. When talking about skills, talent trees are also causing some controversy in the community. We now have skill sets, and new sets become available after you have deposited your skill points on the previous ones. The problem is that, despite the formal flexibility of such a system, it doesn't actually make much sense, and isn't very convenient in terms of user experience. No one is going to put points on fire, ice arrows and electrical charge at the same time. This is unreasonable because you can't learn all the available spells, so you will have to choose only a few of all possible directions. So why put them in same set? Wouldn't it make more sense to follow the division of abilities into arms according to elements? Otherwise, everything about development of the character is not bad. Lack of ability to distribute stat points will not please anyone. The thing is, items can have a feature that increases certain skills or increases damage to enemies under certain conditions. And these bonuses can be so important that you will at least be forced to move away from the normal structure and try something new. Unfortunately, developers have confirmed that redistributing skills at high levels in final version of game will be a very expensive pleasure, so players will be able to do it on their own.